people don't see the benefit of being, in Brownsville. They see like the negative of it because they hear all these negative things about the neighborhood, and that's what they pick up. But if you're from the neighborhood, you don't see it. Like I'm born and raised there, so I'm 60 years old. I've been there for 60 years, and I've never had an incident in the area. The Brownsville house is to your left right here. So the Brownsville house was built in the 40s, late 40s, well, mid 40s. They was 45, 46, they were built. And that was the only projects in the area. But now Brownsville is the most congested area with projects in the city, probably in the country, is Brownsville. This little 1.8 mile area has more project housing complexes than any place in the country. And that's what kills the neighborhood. So across the street, right here in the Van Dyke houses, these were built in '53. And it changed the format. So you see the Brownsville houses to your left, there's 6 stories. To your right, if the Van Dyke, and it's 17 stories. So people from the first floor to the 3rd floor to the 15th floor never met each other. They don't know who the world each other is. They don't know. That's a big difference. But in the 6th floor, you can walk up, you meet people all the time, you see things going on, Yeah, so that's a big difference. Yeah, what happens is that because there's so many public housing complexes in the area, when I was a kid, it was all tenement houses. So tenement houses meant that you got into the complex because somebody knew you. So you moved into the house or building, somebody knew you. So you knew the super, or you knew somebody in the building, and they suggested that you come in. And then when you came in, you was friends. If I lived in the complex, I wouldn't invite somebody that I knew was going to tear the complex up. But when they built the projects, that took away from all of that. So when you built the projects, the government was the ones that's putting you in these projects. So if you lived in the Bronx, or you lived in Manhattan, or you lived in Queens, or you lived in Afghanistan, they put you in the same complex, and you didn't know each other, and you didn't trust each other, and you didn't deal with each other, and that became the crust of why we have these problems right now, to me. Look at all these businesses. This is Belmont Avenue. So Belmont used to be bustling. This was had stores from one end to the next. It was beautiful. But look at it now. So all of these stores are closed, and so that leaves people without jobs and without hope, and that's what's killing the neighborhood. So we trying to do some things now to bring Brownsville back, and so I'm gonna do some programs on Belmont this summer, like some live shows with some jazz or something like that. So I get the older people to come out, some chess tournaments, so people to come walk the streets. And when you got enough people in the street, then it becomes safe again. Look at this, man. Despair, that's what I see, is that it used to be bustling up here. And my wife grew up here too, so this area used to be the prime. You come up here, you get your clothes, you come get your sneakers, your shoes, you have something to sit down and eat and relax. There's none of that in now. So now look, they got drug clinics up here now. What's up? Make it left go. Yeah, so now they got needle exchange up on a major throughway. So all of those things happen for a reason. I think people are trying to destroy the neighborhood when they come up with these programs without asking the neighborhood about them. There used to be 30 banks in the area when I was a kid. Now there's only 2 in Brownsville. 2, and they're right together. So there's one right here, and there's one a couple of blocks down the block. But you will see all of these pop-up stores, and you'll see these dollar stores, and you'll see, you'll see people that's in despair. So you're looking around all of these guys that's walking the street this time of day. How could it be? There's no jobs, right? Any other neighborhood, you wouldn't see that. You'll see people that may be coming from work or coming from business to business and doing their thing, but these people are having a rough time. And that's the problem. The problem is there's no jobs. So why you see so much high crime in this area? Because there's no jobs in this area. Just the other bank right here, Banco Popular. But all of these stores are closing down now. Look at this, man. This is it's unbelievable, man. It's unheard of. And we would never think that would happen in this area because it was always the spot you come to, man. They always had a tremendous amount of delicatessen and restaurants and, places that you can take your family out on a Friday night stroll. No such thing anymore. Just go past the movie house up there. Take your family out on a Friday night stroll. No such thing anymore. 73rd precinct right there. 73rd right there. So I know these guys stay busy. Look at this, man. How are these guys doing today? So they going out there to bust somebody right now, you see? Look at this, man. They got unbelievable, right? Where else do you see this in the world? Oh, just it. Unbelievable. I gotta get out and talk to this guy 1 minute. Look at that. Right back. But this area, this is the main throughway for retail. And when you see this is the main throughway, then we're in trouble because it used to be bustling. It used to have a tremendous amount. You come up here and get a summer job. So when our kids come home from college, we have a tremendous amount of kids in college. But when our kids come home from college, there's no summer jobs for them. So why would they want to stay in a neighborhood that can't provide anything for them? So now we got to figure out a way to keep those kids in the neighborhood because they get their degrees. I have a young lady graduated from Purdue University this year. One's graduating from Yale this year, another gentleman from the neighborhood. But are they going to come back to the neighborhood and settle? That's the key. We got to try to keep those kids in the neighborhood. They come up with their new ideas. They've been places across the country. They meet people across the world. So everybody's giving them their ideas of what their neighborhood looks like. And we want to get that idea in Brownsville. So how do you guys going to change your neighborhood? We want to change it through education, through job development to get people jobs and hope. And you lose all the hope when your kids leave the neighborhood. We just trying to force it. We got to force feed people. We got to force feed them hope because hope left a long time ago. Now we got to get it back to the neighborhood.
Most days you can find Greg Jackson at the Brownsville Recreation Center in Brooklyn. He knows how community can radiate from one place that draws people in. After he stopped playing for the NBA, Greg says he spends most of his time at the center.
My grandmother used to take me on these walking tours when I was a kid. I might have been 3 years old, and she would point to all of the beautiful buildings in the area, talking about the structure and the architecture, and she would say, "Oh, look how beautiful this building is. What would you do with that building?" And I'm 3 years old thinking, this lady's got to be crazy. I don't know what she's talking about. But she put that community in me a long time ago, and it stuck. Every morning we left out the house, she would say, "Okay, who are you going to help today?" And we would say, "I don't know." She said, "You're right, you don't know, but we're going to help somebody because that's what we do. We're going to help somebody." They were from South Carolina. My grandmother and grandfather were from South Carolina, so they came up community-wise, and they just passed that on.
Yeah, what happened?
Well, what happened in the late 50s, early 60s, the neighborhood was predominantly Jewish when I was a kid. And most of the Jews left in the late 50s, early 60s. And when they left, all of the services left with them. So the sanitation stopped picking up as much as they did. The best schools in the area, which was the schools we went to, all changed overnight. The teachers left the area. It became a combat zone because we got younger teachers that were just there to pick up, to learn. They weren't there to stay. Back in those days, the teachers lived in the area. They lived in the neighborhood, so they made it better because they knew your parents. I remember teachers coming to my house in the 2nd and 3rd grade. These days, that's never going to happen again. That's what changed the neighborhood. When it became less community, it changed the neighborhood.
And so when you brought your attention back to Brownsville, I think it was 1985 when you finished playing pro ball and started to work there. What kind of shape was it in then, Greg?
Yeah, well, actually, I came back in I never left Brownsville in the first place. When I was playing, the couple of minutes I played with the Knicks, I took the train from Rockaway and Livonia with all of my friends every game. So I never left. I lived right in the neighborhood. I lived on at Noble Duale Plaza, which was on New Lots, and right around the corner from the community center where I'm working at right now. So I never left. And when I did have a chance to play in Phoenix, I still kept my apartment in Brownsville. So every summer when I came home, I just came home to the neighborhood, and I put on basketball clinics, and I started showing kids and people in the neighborhood what I learned when I was away in Phoenix. Let me tell you how it looked, how it smelled. Let's change our neighborhood to look like this. This was a good thing I saw. While I was in Greensboro, North Carolina, going to school, I fell in love with Greensboro because it was such a clean and fair city. So I wanted to bring that to the neighborhood. There were things that I did when I had a chance to go someplace else. I saw what it used to look like or what it looked like there, and I wanted to bring it back to my neighborhood.
I read somewhere that the community center went through a period of time when it was in pretty rough shape, though. Is that true?
Without a doubt, yeah. Community center was horrible. When I came back here in 1982 was like maybe the first time I walked in the doors back here, and I couldn't believe the shape it was in. It was unbelievably horrible. It had rats running through here. It was holes in the floors. They had no security. You didn't even lock the doors at night. So that's how bad it was. So we just, again, I had a group of my friends the next morning. We came in here, we had some paint, we had some shellac. We did the floors over, we sanded the floors down. I had like 20 friends of mine. We painted everything up, cleaned it up. I had a friend of mine who has an extermination company. He came in and got rid of the rats for me. And it worked out beautifully. And the city became more interested after that.
And how did you turn it into a safe place again, where kids wouldn't have to worry about, spending a Saturday afternoon there, that sort of thing?
Well, let me tell you why. Because I'm from the neighborhood. So, and then because I did play a minute or two in the NBA, they gave me like a respect that most people didn't have. So I can go to their house and people were glad to see me. I knew most of the parents of these kids. I know most of the grandparents of these kids. So I grew up right here. I never left. And people respected that. They respected the fact that I didn't leave and then didn't know how to come back to the neighborhood. I always stayed. And even when it was rough, I stayed. And I think people respected the fact that I didn't left. I didn't go and like become something else. So they was respecting me, and they just, whatever I asked them to do, they did. And they knew I was going to do the right thing for their kids.
And so when you imagine what's possible in the future for Brownsville, is it your belief, Greg, that some of those big housing project buildings along that mile have to come down, or is there a way of making those communities?
Yeah, we got to make them communities. So one of the things we do right now, we do something called a coffee clutch. And the coffee clutch is we meet every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday. And we go into somebody's apartment in one of those buildings, and we started having people come together. So when I walk into the door, they know nothing about Brownsville because they're not from Brownsville. So I start telling them about Brownsville, what it used to look like, and they can't believe it. And then I start asking them questions like, where you from? Where's your family from? And they say, well, I'm from, North Carolina. I'm from Greensboro. I'm from Raleigh. And then I said, did you know Miss Johnson on the 9th floor is from Raleigh, North Carolina? And they wouldn't know that. Because again, that took away from community. So I invite Miss Johnson down, and they start talking about things, and they start realizing how close and how close we are. And then people start letting it changes overnight. That building is going to change because people start knowing each other, start speaking to each other, start dealing with each other, because they all think that they're from. I'm from the Bronx, but you're not originally from the Bronx. Where you from? Where's your family from? That's what I ask them. They're from. All my family's from Raleigh, North Carolina, and then I let them know who else is from in that building from Raleigh, North Carolina, and what kind of connections they have.
It seems so simple.
Yeah, it does, but it's a lot of work. It's going to take a long time to get it done. But what we have nothing but time. So we might as well take our time and do it the right way.
Well, and you need someone like you who knows who's who in which building, right? I mean...
Yeah, well, you know what happens, though? I don't go to people's houses without being invited. So when people... Once you invite me to your house, and I go in there like 6 to 8 women most of the time. Most of the time it's women that's there. And I come in as a coffee clutch, so I bring donuts, and I bring the coffee from Dunkin' Donuts, the Joe's Coffee, and I'll bring a bucket of chicken, and we'll sit down and we talk about their kids and how their kids can get summer jobs. And we talk about everything about the neighborhood. We talk about the movie houses that used to be there, and where you go to take your kids down. There's no place they can go. So now we got to change that. How are we going to do that? So at the rec center, I have movie night on Friday night. We used to roller skate when I was a kid. Now we roller skate here every Friday night at the rec center, and it's free. So when you come in the door, all the things that somebody else dream about, we can do it. And we show them that we can do it. So at the coffee clutches, if they mention something that we can do, and then I try to make it happen right away. So if they say we want to do this, we want to do a cooking class for these kids. I have 2 kitchens in the building. We can do that. I want to have, my son wants to be a rapper. I have 2 recording studios in the building. We can do that. There's no place for me to swim in the winter. I have a pool in the building. We can do that. We have just everything that they want to do, we can do.
And so you've seen 60 years of Brownsville, and as you're saying, it had its high points, it's had its low points. The unemployment is still really high, and it's tough on the young men who are there. Where does your enthusiasm come from? Because
I can feel it coming back. This is a time right now where people are starting to get that hope back. Hope left a couple of years ago. Hope was out of here. But now hope is back in the neighborhood. Hope is here, and people are starting to see and starting to dream like they used to dream, you know. And then I tell you, all these little things, it takes a lot of things to bring it back. You get a chance to dream the way these kids are dreaming and to do the things that we're doing, then wow, I think it's going to happen real fast. It's going to happen pretty fast.